Hello viewers, and a warm welcome to the show this evening. I am your host Chef Andy, and as you can see I'm joined by Eunice, a guest that you may have of course seen before, but I will allow her to say hello before we proceed. Eunice?
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen me before, so I'm happy to be here again.
Alright, and maybe you can also reintroduce yourself for the viewers that may have not seen you before.
My name is Eunice Wairimu, and I live in Kahawa West. I'm working and studying.
Perfect. Now, Eunice, before we begin our dish for today, which we're going to be making a very simple chicken and papaya salad, I'll of course introduce the ingredients that we'll be working with, just to give you viewers at home an idea of what to expect for this recipe. So from the very front, you'll require 1 teaspoon of brown sugar and about 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. You'll also require 1 tablespoon of olive oil and about 1 teaspoon of chili flakes. You'll also require 1 teaspoon of some English mustard and about 1 tablespoon of some finely chopped coriander. You'll also require 2 whole chilies, green or red, a few sprigs of fresh mint, and a small handful of some sultanas. You'll also require 1 whole imported lemon or local lemon, 1 red and 1 yellow onion already peeled and washed. You'll also require some roast chicken. So for those of you who may have looking at ideas to use with maybe some leftover chicken, you can of course be able to use that as well. You'll also require a few pieces of some sun-dried tomatoes, 1 whole papaya, a nice big handful of some fresh iceberg lettuce, some salt and some black peppercorns to crush, and last but not least, some oil to aid you in making your dressing. But before we begin, we'll of course give you this chance to sit back, relax and unwind, and we'll see you after a short break. Now, to begin our process, very important that we of course start with the easiest first, which is of course our dressing. So for this you will require your brown sugar, your apple cider vinegar, your olive oil, a bit of your mustard. So we're pretty much going to add everything into the bowl. All you need to do is allow for your mixture to sit undisturbed for just a little bit of time for your flavors to fully combine. Hello viewers, and welcome back for those of you who have been tuning in. Now if you've just gotten some time to join us on the show today, we're going to be making something way simple today. I'm going to be showing you how to convert some leftover roast chicken into a very, very simple salad. As I mentioned, I'm going to of course be incorporating the use of some citrus fruits, some dried fruits, and of course some fresh fruit. I'm also going to be using some sun-dried tomatoes, but you can of course be able to alternate this for some fresh tomatoes or even some cherry tomatoes. Now to begin our process, very important that we of course start with the easiest first, which is of course our dressing. So for this you will require your brown sugar, your apple cider vinegar, your olive oil, a bit of your mustard. So we're pretty much going to add everything into the bowl. Right, and in goes your English mustard. So we're going to begin by whisking the mixture together. Very important to also remember to add your salt at this stage, just to be able to dissolve your salt a little early in the process. And of course, dressing is not complete without the addition of some freshly ground black peppercorns. Right, so very, very simple process to begin. I think you'll be able to remember this dressing very easily, yeah?
Yeah.
It's not so hard.
Yeah.
So that's the basics of just making a dressing. You pretty much need a bit of a cider vinegar, or even just regular vinegar, or even lemon juice, which is of course a good alternative. But of course, due to the fact that vinegar does possess a very, very commercial kind of aftertaste, we're of course going to tone that down a little better with a bit of some lemon. So I'm going to begin by rolling the lemon on my chopping board. This is of course to make it much easier for you to get the juices out much quicker. And into your dressing, we'll proceed to squeeze in the juice of half of your lemon. And right after adding your lemon juice, all you need to do is allow for your mixture to sit undisturbed for just a little bit of time for your flavors to fully combine. And you can proceed to, of course, chill that in the refrigerator if you're looking at chilling out your dressing. But the most preferred option is always mix your dressing or whip your dressing up. Proceed to move it maybe into a salad dressing bowl, or maybe a bottle that you can be able to drizzle your dressing with. And you can of course be able to serve that at room temperature. So we'll begin to work the rest of our salad immediately after that. So into another clean bowl, we're going to begin by adding a few of our onion rings. So I'm going to begin by slicing some onion rings from our white onion. So be sure to begin by just slicing off a bit of the chunk from the very end, and proceed to slice about 4 rings worth of your onion rings. Set that aside. Proceed to do the same thing with your red onion. Of course, making sure to slice as thin as you possibly can, for the fact that you are going to be making a salad. Very important to make sure that your onions are also as thin as possible. And proceed to slice 4 rings just as you did with your white onion. And into another bowl, proceed to add your onions and discard the roots. And to that, we're also going to squeeze over that the other half of your lemon. This is of course to aid in getting that bitter sharpness of the onions out completely. And of course make it very much easy for you to enjoy your salad without of course feeling the tension at the back of your tongue. Right, so in goes your lemon juice. Be sure to also take out any bit of seeds that may actually fall into your bowl. And right after that, all we're going to do is mix that through with a spoon. And of course add your chopped up coriander leaves into the same bowl. Season with a bit of some black peppercorns. And lastly, sprinkle a bit of some salt. So basically the idea behind this is to pretty much coat your onions very, very nicely in a bit of lemon juice. This will of course give it a bit of flavor. And of course by seasoning it as well with some salt and pepper, you actually manage to make sure that it will of course be able to blend with the flavors at the end of your salad preparation. Right, now next up, we're going to begin by adding the rest of the other ingredients. So into the bowl, into another clean bowl, proceed to break in or tear off the small leaves from your mint and proceed to add those into your bowl. So you should actually be using about 3 to 4 sprigs of fresh mint for this recipe. Right, how are we doing?
We're good.
We're good?
Yeah.
Right, so now we're going to go into the next step now, which is basically the veggies that we'll be adding to our salad. So this we're going to allow to sit undisturbed. And to the same bowl with your mint, we're going to proceed to add our sultanas at this stage. And of course, be sure to save up a bit of mint for garnishing your salad with a little later. We're also going to be using some fresh chilies for this recipe, but for the fact that we're going to be using this just to garnish, we are going to be adding that a little later. Same thing with the chili flakes that we're going to be topping the salad with. Right, now next up, we're going to cut our chicken into some sizable chunks. So I'm using some leftover roast chicken. You can of course be able to roast your own chicken to order and proceed to add that to your salad once it's completely cooled off. Very, very important to make sure that your chicken is also as fresh as possible. So be sure to always make sure to, in many cases, proceed to make your own roast chicken. It always saves you a bit of time, and you're of course pretty much assured that there is not any foreign bodies in your chicken. But of course, if you're really pressed for time, you can of course be able to stand or buy your roast chicken maybe at a local rotisserie, and you can of course proceed to assemble your salad as we've done on the show. Right, so once your chicken is in, we're also going to be adding to that some fresh papaya. So very simply, begin by slicing off the end of the papaya. This is of course to take note of the color. Remember, for one particular reason that you're going to be using fruit for this particular recipe, be always sure to use fruit that is of course not too ripe, and of course also not very raw. This is of course to make sure that you also don't build up any indigestion in your stomach. And all you need to do now is proceed to peel your papaya with a sharp knife. And of course, using a semi-ripe papaya makes it so much easier for you to be able to work with. So very, very gently proceed to peel and remove all of the skin of the papaya. Of course, always making sure that you slice a little much thinner into the cut, just to be able to make sure you also get rid of any bit of white membrane that may be found right between the green part of the skin and the inner flesh of your papaya. Right, once that's done, you can proceed to discard the peel completely. Once you've peeled your papaya completely, proceed to slice right through the center. And using a spoon, we're going to proceed to remove the seeds. So I'm going to ask Eunice to do that for us. So basically, very important to always remember the small bits about making a salad, especially if you're going to be making a salad fresh. Try and slice or cut your vegetables closest to the time that you'll be assembling your salad. This way you can actually be able to keep your vegetables as fresh as possible, and they also maintain that beautiful look of freshness. Something also to mention, we're going to be also adding a bit of some sun-dried tomatoes to our salad. But remember, if this is not easily available to you, you can alternatively use some cherry tomatoes or some fresh tomatoes. But do remember to salt them immediately after cutting them or peeling them or even slicing them. This is of course to give the tomatoes a nice, beautiful, refreshing, sweet touch to them. Perfect. All right, so once that's peeled, we'll pretty much discard the seeds. And all you need to do now is proceed to slice your papaya into some nice sizable chunks and proceed to add that to the bowl with the chicken. Right, once that's done, we're going to give that a quick mix. And as you do so, very, very important to remember to also dress your ingredients as you continue. So for that, I'm going to grab a spoon, and you can add about 3 or 4 tablespoons into the mixture. This is of course just to build up on the flavor of your salad. And then proceed to mix that through. Proceed to do the same thing with your onions by adding also about 2 tablespoons into the bowl. And proceed to mix that through with a spoon. And all these ingredients of course can actually be kept in the refrigerator and served a little later in time. But of course, if you're really pressed for time, you can proceed to chop up your ingredients a little early in advance, and of course keep them in a refrigerator, covered and maybe preferably in an airtight container. This is of course to maintain the freshness of your ingredients and to avoid any contamination while they're actually resting in your refrigerator. Right, so once your onions are mixed through, all you're left to do now is begin to assemble your salad, which we're going to be doing in a very, very little bit. So do not touch that down. We're going to take a very quick break, but when we do come back, I will of course take you through the very, very simple process of assembling your salad. And I'm also going to be sharing some very small and handy serving suggestions. So please don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. We're going to begin by adding our lettuce into the bowl with the onions. This is of course just to dress it very, very lightly. But as you do so, always make sure to shake off any bit of water that could be in your salad. And another thing, also be sure to always confirm with the bowl that you're using that you don't actually have any worms or any particular bits of sand at the bottom, because that of course would mean that the lettuce was not it wasn't actually cleaned properly. Welcome back, viewers. If you're just tuning into the show this evening, you may have missed out on a few things that we've done, such as mixing some of the ingredients in the salad, making our salad dressing, and of course finishing off the few condiments that we're going to be incorporating. But remember, you can be able to recap on this by subscribing to our YouTube channel. That's BrandPlus TV Kenya. Now, as we wrap up the show, we're going to now finish off the salad. So as I mentioned, some very small bits of detail, such as of course mixing your ingredients a little bit in advance before you plate. This is of course to aid in making sure that your flavors actually marinate for a bit of time. And of course, also very important, we also mentioned dressing your onions in a bit of some lemon juice, some salt and pepper, just of course to get rid of the sharpness of the onions. So we're going to begin the plating process very simply.
Before we do that, I'm just asking whether there's an alternative to the fruits that can be used for the salad. Yes, actually there is. For many particular salads, you'll realize any particular hardy fruit such as papaya and mango will go quite well with the salad. You can also use such ingredients such as oranges or tangerines or even grapefruit, which is of course maybe if you're looking to have them maybe a little bit citrus. And of course, if you're also looking at making your salad maybe you're looking at really showing off the salad, you can also add berries. So strawberries, blueberries, black currants, those are also very good additions. So any particular fruit that you will add to your salad will pretty much dominate the flavor of the salad. So if you add oranges, for instance, it will be a citrus one. If you add maybe such as mango or papaya, it's also going to be a little sweeter as well. And if you're adding something like berries, it's also going to be a little sour and sweet, so it's going to pretty much balance in flavors. So something also to mention with viewers at home, there is of course a lot of very many recipes out there that you can be able to refer to. Some recipes of course also pretty much depend on where you come from, for instance. So you'll realize maybe people who come from the tropics or people who live within the equator, maybe in the continent of Africa, will have a lot of citrus salads. But if you're moving maybe towards the tropics or maybe further away from the equator where you may not be able to find some of the fruits available, the ingredients will of course change as you travel. Yeah. Okay. Right. Any other question? So on the what you're using lettuce.
Yes.
Can we use dandelion or any other kind of?
Yes, dandelion is actually a good alternative, and something else you can be able to replace the mixed lettuce with. You can also use the iceberg lettuce, the one that looks like a small cabbage.
Yeah.
You can also use cabbage as well, the red or the purple cabbage. The purple cabbage or the yellow cabbage. Any of them will also go quite well, just as the way you'd normally make a coleslaw salad. But for reasons that we're going to be dressing our salad, particularly with lettuce, you can of course be able to actually serve this on its own as a salad. And the lettuce is actually basically an added advantage to your salad. So what pretty much gives the size or gives a nice, beautiful picture to a salad is mostly the lettuce. And normally we would add lettuce just to pretty much give the salad a bit of a body. So on most occasions, actually at times you may be able to find a salad served just as the way you've mixed that in the bowl. But normally I would add a bit of lettuce just to make it look bigger, and of course to also give it a nice beautiful balance of ingredients. So it will add both color and it will also give it a nice beautiful balance, and it will also make it very easy for you to be able to balance the flavors. Yeah. Okay. Any other question?
No, that's the questions I had. Yeah.
Perfect. So as we finish off the salad, we're going to begin by adding our lettuce into the bowl with the onions. This is of course just to dress it very, very lightly. But as you do so, always make sure to shake off any bit of water that could be in your salad. And another thing, also be sure to always confirm with the bowl that you're using that you don't actually have any worms or any particular bits of sand at the bottom, because that of course would mean that the lettuce was not it wasn't actually cleaned properly. So I would recommend a clear bowl if you can be able to find one. It always makes it easy for you to see through, and if there's anything that is not part of the ingredients, you can be able to see it from afar. Yeah. Right, so proceed to mix your lettuce leaves with the onion mixture that is in your bowl. And as I mentioned, very, very important to also dress your lettuce. Remember, at times you will of course find that your lettuce may be very, very bland in flavor. So always be sure to toss it in the bowl that you're going to be tossing the rest of your ingredients. This is of course also to give it a bit of a coating, and of course it will also make sure that your lettuce is not also very, very plain in color. Right, so to begin the process of plating, we'll begin by building up our salad in a plate. So I'm going to be using a deep salad bowl for this particular process. This of course always makes it so much easier for you to really give your salad a bit of an oomph and a beautiful appearance as well. So proceed by building up your salad, giving a bit of height by of course laying the leaves of your lettuce right over each other. And all you need to do now is proceed to scatter your onions right around your plate or your bowl. Simple as that. And also very important, you can also leave a bit of your onions aside so that you can also be able to build as you go. Okay. And then next up, all you need to do is give that a mix once more. This is of course to make sure that your ingredients are not too dry. And all you need to do now is proceed to scoop your ingredients onto your plate. Of course, always having a bit of ingredients right over the top, and finish by adding the last few bits around the sides of your plate. And then proceed to add just a little bit over the top, but very important to also make sure not to have too much at once. So at the moment you actually have the salad almost the same height as a plate, you can actually stop at that point. Or if you're going to be maybe looking at serving it in a bigger bowl, maybe you can use a bowl this size and you can actually be able to go right up to the top. So for a salad, for instance, such as this, we'll be able to give you 2 equal portions very easily, 2 adult-sized portions. Right. So just to finish that off, I'm also going to be garnishing that with a few sprigs of mint right over the sides. And remember, mint is actually also a very, very good particular ingredient that you can be able to use, especially if you're having dressings that are very, very rich. Mint also makes it also refreshing for the salad. So what happens is you won't actually have the aroma of the onions and some of the ingredients. The mint will actually be able to clean your palate very nicely. Okay. Yeah. Right, so right over the top goes your sprig of mint. Very, very importantly, always have a bit of dressing to accompany your salad. And very simply over the top, sprinkle over some chili flakes. And that, of course, can now be finished very, very simply by adding just a little bit of some onion right over the top. And that is pretty much as simple as a salad can get. But of course, something also to add, especially for some of you who are also looking at really having a bit of heat in your salad, you can of course proceed to slice a chili into 2. And you can pretty much just place those right over the top, making it so much easier for the person that you'll be serving your salad to be able to actually see them, and it'll actually be very much easier for them to remove if of course they don't want any chili in the salad. But ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, a very, very simple salad that you can all be able to try at home. And Eunice, I think you can agree most of the ingredients are easy to find.
Yeah, they're very readily available.
Exactly. Yeah. And of course also something also to add to that, the serving suggestions, as I mentioned, you can of course also switch the papaya for some ripe mangoes.
Yeah.
You can also use a bit of some citrus fruits such as oranges.
Yes.
That will also give it a nice beautiful color and a bit of flavor as well. But I believe this is pretty much done, and as I mentioned, remember you're not limited to using only the ingredients that we used for this particular recipe. You can also take a chance at home and actually try out your very own salad. Do take a picture and maybe send it to us, give us your feedback and tell us how you actually came up with yours at home. But we have of course come to the last and final part of the show. Eunice, I'll thank you once again for tuning in and joining us on the show today. I will remind you, you can also be able to be part and parcel of our show by joining us here at the studios. And it's a very, very simple process. You'll begin by texting the 5-digit code on your screens. It is a toll-free number. And you can pretty much proceed to tell us what you're about, where you're from, and something that you're interested in learning on our show. And we'll be more than happy to get back to you and give you a bit of our feedback as well. But for now, we've pretty much finished the dish for today. And I will proceed now to bid you farewell, wishing you a lovely evening. And I will of course ask you to stay blessed. And until the next episode, do have a lovely evening and see you soon.
Bye.